What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing an album review of Midland's sophomore album, Let It Roll. Now, Midland, if you follow the country music conversation at all, has been a controversial band since they got onto the scene. And maybe that's a little bit of an inside music industry conversation, but since they arrived, they've kind of espoused to be a little band that was playing honky tonks in Austin, and yet they're signed to this big Nashville label for their debut, and their lead singer was an underwear model, and another one of them was a music video director, and so some people kind of scratched their heads and been like, this feels a little fabricated, and that's really bothers some people. It's an immediate deal breaker for them. It's like, no, I'm not ever going to be into Midland. It seems like they're trying too hard to frame themselves as this little Austin band. Now, for other people, they're like, I don't really care. All of music has been manufactured for forever. The album sounds good. And their debut album did sound really good. Drinking Problem is an irresistible song. Given this town, lots to talk about. And it actually became a hit, and it became a sort of vintagey throwback hit, and maybe a bellwether of things to come, because as we've seen this year, we're kind of in this neo-traditional movement. The sound of country music is really veering away from the kind of bro-y sound, and the kind of like cosmopolitan bro-y sound, the more Sam Hunt, Chris Lane kind of vibe. We're kind of pushing back in this John Party, Luke Combs, actual fiddle, actual steel kind of sound on radio right now, and it's freaking cool to see. And Midland, you know, for all of the baggage that comes in the conversation with Midland, are some of the biggest purveyors of that sound, and their music sounds really, really good. And now we have their sophomore album, Let It Roll. And what do I think of Let It Roll? Well, Let It Roll is both one of the best albums I've heard this year and one of the most disappointing albums I've heard this year. Now, it's one of the best albums I've heard this year from a sonic standpoint. Holy crap, the sound of it is so nice. This is a well-produced album. It was produced by Shane McAnally, Dan Huff, and Josh Osborne, and they nailed it. It is chic, it is clean, it is rich, it is textured and atmospheric and kind of soft, and there is tons of harmonies in it. It is such a vibe. You're going to hear a lot of people compare it to the Eagles, and that makes sense because there's a ton of harmony-soaked songs on this. You're also going to hear, I think, Dwight Yoakam comparisons. I hear a little bit of Brooks and Dunn, Diamond Rio. It's gorgeous. It is filled with steel. It's filled with harmony, a lot of fun guitar work, and it's just beautiful to listen to. Very atmospheric. I think the lead singer, Mark Weistrach, I don't know how to say his last name, his voice is not anything that special, but it's really warm and smooth would be a good way to describe their sound. Girl, you already got me. This is a beautifully produced record, honestly. But I think I am really disappointed by the lyrics on this album, just because it feels very impersonal in a way. Or it feels a little bit like the band is playing dress up with the lyrics of this record. This album has a lot of songs in which Midland is sort of naming themselves as this honky-tonk band, or kind of framing themselves as guys that are just out on the road doing cocaine, hooking up with PTA moms, and kind of telling stories about cheating. And it's a little weird because I feel like not only looking at them can you see it doesn't really seem like that's your life. If you know the industry at all, it seems like that's not really your life. But more than any of that, let's say you didn't know anything about their backstory, let's say you'd never seen them, I think the sound of the record sort of exposes this tough living, trucking, drug doing, cheating, kind of scuzzy lyrical stories that are being told here. It just sort of exposes that as a lie. In a way, this album kind of reminds me of Mad Men, in which everything's like a little too polished, a little too clean to feel real. Now, Mad Men is amazing. Mad Men is a show made by an auteur that understood visuals and how to tell stories beautifully, but it never felt real. I would say something similar happens on Let It Roll, where everything's just a little too polished and framed and smart to feel as dangerous as it sometimes is claiming to be. Like when you hear Tyler Childers kind of yelp, or Sturgill Simpson sort of snarl, there's just a believability to the fact that, yeah, these guys probably eat a lot of mushrooms and do a lot of acid and have made some hard-living bad decisions. I don't feel the same way when I listen to Midland, despite the fact that all their promo photos are so greasy and that all the words in these songs are about kind of hooking up with these, I don't know, dames. My favorite written song on the album is one that was written by Jess Carson on his own, who's one of the members of the band. And he sings lead on it, and I don't think the other guys are great lead singers, if I'm being honest. They each sing a track on this record. But it's called Lost in the Night. And there's just little specific details in this song, like, do you remember your fingers through my belt loops at the Holiday Inn? And I'm like, that is the kind of stuff that makes an album feel lived in to me. Some of the songs that are a lot more about, like, we're an all-American honky-tonk band. One of the songs that's like, she's bringing back cheating songs. These feel a lot more like they're playing Dress Up. And it's a good version of Dress Up, but I just don't believe it. And I don't know how to explain that other than just to say I don't. And I think the music exposes that just as much as the kind of news about Midland. Other songs don't give me that kind of specificity on this. There's clever little wordplay. Every song's a drinking song when you're drinking. That's a fun line. Get on the stage and play, boys. That's a fun line because Midland's trying to frame themselves as these kind of playboy Lotharios that are sort of bad news. There's good writing, but not necessarily memorable, interesting, heartfelt writing on this record. I do want to say a note about how women are written about on this record. I think it's a little weird. It feels very inspired by Desperate Housewives. All the women, at one point he mentions PTA moms. Like, they're always kind of these desperate women that are smoking, that are cheating, that have sort of a secret life. It feels very, like, kind of one note. And I know I give guys a hard time for writing these overly worshipful songs about, like, woman, amen. But I think this is kind of the other side of the spectrum, where it's this sort of, feels like they're all the characters from Casey Musgraves blowing smoke over and over and over again. But that's enough negatives. I really do want to be positive about the sound of the record, because it is so nice to listen to. Let's kick out the lights tonight, get high and make noise. I mean, I'm really blown away by how beautiful sounding this is. Production-wise, it's like this and the Mike and the Moon Pies record are definitely the best produced albums that I've heard this year. It's truly gorgeous to listen to. Paul Franklin's playing steel all over it. The guitar work is really fun in this. We even get some organs, some jangly piano. It's very rollicking. There's a lot going on musically, and there's a certain ambiance to the harmonies that make it so nice to listen to. I think the strongest melody on the record is probably Put the Hurt on Me. What a beautiful song. That song breathes. And they released it before the record came out, but it's astonishingly good. Baby, put the hurt on me. And then the other song that I really like on this record is called Cheating by the Rules. Cheating by the Rules is about, like, don't call me after 5. We both have people that we're hurting in this process, and let's go through a very regimented way of cheating. We're going to cheat the right way. And it feels a little bit more controlled and almost high class in a way that this album sounds, that it feels a lot more fitting for Midland, at least to my ear and to the sound of this record. Cheating by the Rules feels like a nice suburban way of cheating, and I think that makes it a much better song. 14 Gears is a fan favorite, and I know some people that love Midland are like, no, they've overproduced it, but I think it fits in really nicely with the sound of this record. It's a trucker's love song. He's got 14 gears to get himself back home to his lover. I think that song's actually really, really good. You've got the images of the white line and the Peterbilt whine of his truck. I think that song's super effective. I think they did a really good job recording it. I understand that people that loved the acoustic version feel a little like it's too dressed up, but as someone that hadn't really heard that one, I think it really works. I Love You Goodbye, Mr. Lonely, Fast Hearts and Slow Towns, all very, very fun to listen to. Mr. Lonely is a jam. It's the one you're gonna want on a Saturday night when you're lonely. I wish that song were kind of taken off on radio more because it is so much fun. So overall, I'd say it's a good, not great record. I think the production and the music is great, but I think the words and the storytelling, it's a little too like marketing-y. Like they're trying to convince us who they are as a band, and a little less just honest. And I think you feel that, and you feel that separation between how the record sounds and the types of stories they're telling. They don't quite align to me. It's like when Taylor Swift raps. So I'd give the sound of this record, close to a 10 in terms of just music. But I think lyrically, I can only give it like a 6. They're solidly constructed songs. Like they're professionally written, but I don't know. It's hard to define what makes you not feel something, but that's just how I feel. So I overall give the album maybe like, I care a little bit more about lyrics. Let's just say like a 7.7 or let's just say a 7.5. That's less extra. Let's say a 7.5 out of 10. It's a really good record. It's an important record for how it sounds and the fact that these guys are so cool. They have a big reputation and that people are leaning into this sound. That makes me encouraged. Those are my thoughts on Let It Roll. I'd love to know what you guys think of this record. And if am I missing something? Is there a song that stands out to you? Let me know. I'll talk about it more on my podcast that posts every Monday. You should check that out if you haven't. It's called Free Country. And I'm always posting stuff on social media. You guys know where to find me. It's all down in the description down below. Thanks for all the love on the channel lately, and yeah, I'll hopefully do some more reviews soon. Bye, guys.